sympathy to the family and tell you how much our heart grieves for your loss, but to know that our dear friend is now reborn and is celebrating his rebirth birthday. And I actually came to TBN in 1990 and interviewed for the engineering position, secretary position when Carol Bagooby left to move in with her family. And Ben Miller was my boss, but Marv was my supervisor, and he was the one who said yes to any vacation time, any sick time, anything that I needed, do what I needed to do, he would say. And basically, we all know him as a generous, genial, kind, easygoing, and passionate person. He cared very much about his country and about his family. He, as you saw, had the red hat that said, "Make America Great Again," and he had it on his desk at least 3 years. We would, he'd always have an open door policy. People would come in into his office and feel very welcomed, and he used to say that Dick was his twin, just 3 months apart. And I didn't actually work with Dick when he was in the engineering department, but he came back as a freelancer and would visit us, and I saw many similarities in their personalities, and but he was his own person. Marv would say a story about Paul Sr. walking down the hall, and he would greet him, and then Paul Sr. would say, "Hello, Dick," and he says, "That's not my name." And he says, "Well, what's in a name?" And then Marv would say, "Hello, Phil," which is Paul's brother. So Paul never made that mistake again. So it was definitely about individuality, his own personality, his own quirks. We all know him as a man who, was very open to people when they did come into his office, and whether they needed to chat or decompress, that he was always a good listener. And there are people who weren't able to be here today who expressed how much he was very kind, and I think we all know him as a man who just had a great legacy in terms of how he lived his life. It's not so much what he said in his words. So I would say also that, he had his favorite pen. I always ordered him Pilot Uniball, black and blue, fine and extra fine. Wouldn't use anything else. And I love the fact that he had his trademark suspenders on, and one of the few men who actually used a pocket protector when he carried around his pens. And Marv was a spiritual papa, as you would say, to me, in the sense that he would tell me about Rich Mullins and the accident that he had, and the Ragamuffin Gospel, and how that singer wrote the song "Awesome God," and it's, a praise and worship to the Lord. And we all know that it doesn't matter how many days you have in this world, we have all of eternity to spend together. And that, as you can tell, and a lot of, it's because I'm not a public speaker, but I just appreciate, everyone here whose life has been touched by Marv, because mine certainly has. I was very fortunate to be in the position of his secretary, kind of his organizer. I tried to make suggestions about filing, but he had the vertical filing system, and I, asked him, what does your wife think about your clutter? And he says, she gives me a room, you know. It's like, okay, as long as it's not in her space, I think he's happy. But of course, I would remind him, you know, it's your anniversary or her birthday coming up, and what are you gonna do? And he's like, I'm gonna give her the universal gift card, cash. And then he would tell me stories about them going to Walmart or another gift store and showing each other a card and saying, put it in a bag. So, you know, he was very frugal as well. I mean, she didn't care and he didn't care. It was all about expressing those emotions and letting one another know that they were loved. And I truly saw that in his life and his love for his family as well. So I just appreciate being asked to, you know, share a few stories about Marv. And, you know, we've been through ups and downs. You know, I remember 9/11 and the news and being glued to the set and just the heartbreak. And, you know, we recently dealt with that anniversary, but, you know, our lives do go on. And, you know, this is a heartbreak right now. And we pray for the family for their healing. But we know that we will see one another again. I do believe that if it's our loved ones who greet us in heaven, Ben Miller and Carol Bagubi were there. And I just will always remember him for his, you know, love of focus on positivity. And he used to talk about Three Stooges and Murder, She Wrote and old classics like that. And so one last story. I would sometimes forget my medication for my pre-diabetes at home, and he would stop at my home on the way up from Oceanside and, you know, greet my husband, and my husband would say, "It's good to see you." And he would say, "Good to be seen." So thank you for letting me share.